today, and the humidity is 37%, but it feels like it's a lot more. I think they're taking the measurements at the airport where the weather is a lot different. We're under an excessive heat warning, and it's supposed to rain in the afternoon, so it has this feeling in the air, like the air is so dense that you feel like you can cut it like a loaf of bread. It is heavy and oppressive, and it, I don't know, it makes me feel like I don't want to do anything. Any little exertion will cause you to sweat profusely. I was out there this morning at about 8 o'clock, and the sun was already so intense that I was just dripping with sweat by the time I was out there for about 5 minutes. So I've been in here hanging out, watching a documentary on YouTube, kind of a guilty pleasure, but I just don't feel good enough to do anything else. I know that when it was raining, I wasn't doing anything either because it was causing my arthritis to kick in. Well, this humidity is causing, you know, more problems with my body. And I just started a program in physical therapy. Actually, the doctor is insisting that I do physical therapy, which I've tried before, and it doesn't seem to work, especially with the resistance and weight-bearing exercises. They just cause me like 2 days of pain, and then it's time to do another therapy session, and regardless of how they change the exercises around, it always causes me a lot of pain afterwards. But it's just a requirement. If you're taking medication of any sort, the doctors are now requiring that you do physical therapy as well, even though it's hasn't been proven to work in your case. I have severe rheumatoid arthritis, according to the rheumatologist. I've got a rheumatoid factor of 35, and high, really high, is supposed to be 15, so you can imagine how bad it is or how far advanced it is. I don't have a lot of joint deformity, but I mean, it affects my internal organs, so that I have had heart problems and intestinal problems. I have Sjogren's, which causes dry eye, and I have problems with my back. I have scoliosis, which is adding to that. I've had several surgeries, like I had knee surgery and a failed back surgery where they took out part of my disc. It just, I mean, if they're trying to talk you into back surgery and you've got rheumatoid arthritis, think about it first. It's probably better for someone who maybe has osteoarthritis, which I also have. But if you have rheumatoid arthritis, I would think twice about getting that type of surgery first. Talk to a rheumatologist and see what they have to say. They'll probably tell you that they want you to go on some kind of metabolical drug like Humira, Plaquenil, or methotrexate, which they've recommended in my case, and I've decided not to take because it makes me sick for 2 days out of the week. I'm totally wiped out with fatigue, and I'm so sick that I just can't eat anything except clear liquids. Even with the kind of anti-nausea drugs, which make me very drowsy. So I'm not willing to give up that much of my life to take these drugs that may or may not work with the inflammation. And I didn't want this video to be very technical about what rheumatoid arthritis is, but I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of how it affects me, how the weather affects me. It's a really frustrating disease because when you think you're doing really well, you're getting a lot of work done, then all of a sudden there's a weather change and you have a flare, and then you feel like completely wiped out and like you can't do anything. I don't know, I just feel so unproductive right now, and there's so many things that I should be doing, like working on the roof or working on the floors, you know, stuff with the house that I'm doing by myself, and I should have help, but the thing is that there's the cost factor. I don't have a lot of money to work with, so I'm doing a lot of stuff myself, slowly but surely. But when you have a flare, you really can't do anything, much of anything physical. So the most I've been doing is taking care of the animals, taking care of the chickens in the morning. If there's egg orders, I usually get that done in the morning. If I have a routine, I feel like I'm productive. You know, if I get something accomplished, no matter how small, every day, I feel that, you know, I'm being productive, and that's really important to me. It's just being stalled and in limbo that really gets to me, because I feel like I'm going to be in this situation forever, you know, without having any. I have a lawn, I'm sitting on a lawn chair, you know, to give you an idea. I don't really have any furniture outside of my bed, and table and chairs, and this chair and another chair in the bedroom. It was very important for me to have a chair when I first got here, because I need to rest a lot with this, you know, when I get fatigue. And this chair, when it may not look like much, but when you're able to recline like this, it takes a lot of pressure off my sit bones and my lower back. So it, when I have a lot of pain, it helps a lot. So I love sitting in this chair. That's why I'm always sitting in this chair, because it helps me with my pain and fatigue. To give you some of the history behind my arthritis, I was diagnosed probably about 12 years ago, but I had problems with my back and my neck before that. I had been to see a number of different doctors and therapists and chiropractors and that sort of thing. And the chiropractor had told me when I was 40 years old that I had the spine of a 60-year-old woman. I had bone spurs on my individual vertebrae. And she said, normally you get these when you're about 60 years old, you know. Typically, a lot of people come in there with back pain and have a little bit of spurs growing out from their vertebrae. But here I was at 40 years old with a 9-month-old baby and bone spurs. I had my last child when I was 40. So when they were trying to put the epidural in, because I had a C-section, they were unable to put the needle in my spine because my vertebrae were so compact. They couldn't get the needle in there. There has to be a space so they can get to your spinal cord. Well, they had me bent all the way over, and I was having heavy contractions, and they were just trying to get that needle in, and it seemed like it lasted forever. It didn't help that they were at the end of their shift, and they were probably trying to rush it. And she was born, I think at 9 o'clock in the morning, or I had my C-section at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I went in with contractions and almost fully dilated at midnight the night before. So I had 9 hours of heavy labor, and I really, the doctor, I guess, didn't want to come in the middle of the night, so we waited until 9 o'clock in the morning, you know, after he played his game of golf or whatever, for my surgery. I never went to that doctor again, by the way. So anyway, that's what it can affect for people who get rheumatoid arthritis earlier in life than middle age. If you're still of childbearing age and you have rheumatoid arthritis, it can affect your childbearing ability, not your ability, but the whole process, the pain involved in the labor and that sort of thing. So when my daughter was 9 months old, I was very sick with a virus. They didn't know at first exactly what it was, but I had very high fevers for a long period of time in the evening hours. My fevers would go up to like 103, 104, and I had very bad stomach pain. Every time I ate, I would have just the worst stomach cramps. I can't remember exactly what the other symptoms were, but the high fevers were, you know, a really hard thing to go through every single night. And I still had, you know, I still had to take care of my 9-month-old baby. So in the beginning, they thought I might have had liver cancer. And I was just, I was terrified. I had inflammation of the liver, and they did a bunch of tests, and they finally found. So they finally found out, once they looked at the results of all the tests, that I had this thing called cytomegalovirus. It's a virus that people normally are exposed to, and they don't have any symptoms at all unless they have an autoimmune condition like cancer, they're on chemo, or they might have AIDS, which I didn't have any of those. I just was exposed to this virus, and I got very sick. My daughter, my little 9-month-old baby, had it. They tested her as well, because they suspected that she had gotten it from daycare and I had gotten it from changing her diapers, which is a typical way of getting it, being exposed to someone's bodily fluids. So she did not have any symptoms at all. She never got sick. So they kind of settled on that explanation of why I got this horrible sickness that lasted for a month and really affected me afterwards, because I never felt the same after that. I never had the same amount of energy, and I always had this kind of achy feeling. You know, it just didn't feel right all the time. Finally, I went in to see my primary care doctor because I'm just feeling so tired and run down and achy, which I had felt before. I had felt run down before, but never this bad. Previous to that, they found that I had been anemic, but this time they thought, or the primary care doctor said, that I had fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome. And, you know, it was kind of during that time period when people were getting diagnosed with that, and he said, you know, I think you need to go on anti-depressants. So it kind of makes you think that they kind of think it's in your mind, you know, that you're a woman that's complaining a lot about non-specific symptoms, and they can't find anything wrong with you. So he put me on that drug, and it was called Effexor, and I would never recommend going on an antidepressant if you have any kind of, you know, pain or, you know, like headaches, migraines, which I had, and that sort of thing, because the side effects are just not worth it. It seems to be a prescribe all for everything. Antidepressants for anything that they can't figure out. So I gained a lot of weight. I wasn't sleeping at night, so they gave me sleeping pills. I was having severe migraines, and it just wasn't worth it. And once I went off of it, or if I skipped a day of taking the medication, I would feel irritable and all out of sorts, and I got kind of a reputation with my husband for needing medication, which you don't want to get a reputation for that you need some kind of psychoactive drug because you're not feeling well. So I eventually went off of that, but off and on they would put me on the antidepressants again, and it never fails. Every time I go in with a complaint of not feeling well, you know, a chronic thing, they want to put me on antidepressants, and I usually say no. So off and on from that point forward, they were putting me on antidepressants left and right whenever, you know, I supposedly had some kind of flare. I was having a lot of pain with my back. In fact, I had knee surgery from a car. I was a pedestrian versus car accident. I was the pedestrian, and I had arthroscopic surgery, and it altered my gait so that it caused back pain. So every now and then that would flare up really badly, and I wouldn't even be able to put my shoes on. I remember once my husband had me to put my shoes on before I went to work. But it just got to the point where I was going to a chiropractor, and she was prescribing massage, which was covered by my insurance, luckily, because it did help a lot. But she told me that I had the spine of a 60-year-old woman. She was the one. And I would say about 10 years after that point, it wasn't even 10 years, I'm getting ahead of myself. It was a few years after that point, I was having a lot of pain, and the antidepressants again were prescribed, and it was just making me nuts because I wasn't able to work all the time. I took a long medical leave for I just couldn't get up in the morning and get myself out the door to go to work. I eventually had to make a job change, not because of the medical problem, but because of something else, and I had to move because of it, and that seemed to like kind of upset things with my body, you know, getting used to a different climate. I moved up north, and I remember I was on a business trip, and I was having really severe problems with joint pain in my hands and my feet. And I was also having this problem where I was staying up all night long and talking really fast. And they say that it was probably the antidepressant that I was taking that was causing this. So I went off of that really quickly. I did not want to be staying up all night and not sleeping. I would go like 2 nights without sleep. So I was on a business trip, and I was not feeling well, and I went in to like one of these urgent care clinics. I was in New Jersey at the time, and they did a bunch of blood tests, and the doctor there said, I would suggest that you go home. I don't want to scare you or anything, but your blood tests indicate that you've got a far bigger problem than just the flu or something like that. we're going to put you on prednisone right now, but you need to go home and see your regular doctor. So I actually took a cab to the airport, and my boss didn't like that for some reason. I guess it cost a lot of money. I was in New York at the time. I went home. It was the middle of the winter in a snowstorm, and I finally got home, and I went into this clinic that was recommended by my primary care doctor, and they started a big workup. Well, I ended up having to change jobs right in the middle of all of that and change insurance and everything. So I was never really diagnosed or, able to follow through on all that big workup. So a few years after that, I would say 4 years after that, I, started having the same problems again. And my doctor said, well, you've got a really high SID rate. And I told him, well, I've heard that before. When I was on that business trip and I went in for that big workup that I was never able to finish, they kept telling me that I had a high SID rate. And a lot of times they link that to cancer. People with a high SID rate will have a tumor. So it's something that you need to worry about if you have that kind of test result. So they did a huge panel of tests. I remember they took like 27 vials of blood from me. And they came back with the results, and they said, well, you've got rheumatoid arthritis, markers for that, and you also have Sjogren's, which is something I'd never heard of. And then I found out later that it had something to do with mucous membranes and dry eye and, intestinal problems and that sort of thing. It's another autoimmune disease. I wasn't having any problems like that yet, but, of course, the rheumatoid arthritis diagnosis was troubling to me. They gave me a few drugs that, worked for the pain somewhat, and it just began this endless going back to different specialists, neurologists, cardiologists, all these different specialists. I would, started having problems with my heart and high blood pressure and that sort of thing, and having to take time off of work, medical leaves, and I wasn't put on any rheumatoid arthritis drugs at that time. In fact, I went back to California, and I saw a specialist there, and she told me that she didn't do any medical tests, and she said that I didn't have arthritis, because she looked at my joints, and she said that they weren't deformed enough or swollen enough. So for the longest time I thought, I questioned my own sanity. Why are some doctors telling me I have rheumatoid arthritis and other doctors telling me I don't? Well, I ended up going back to the previous location. They said, I don't know what test results, or if any, that you had before in California, but you definitely have rheumatoid arthritis, and you need to be on medication to control it, because by that time I was having problems with my intestines. So they're sending me to a lot of specialists, cardiologists, internal gastroenterologists. I went to an allergist, they found something when they did a routine colonoscopy, which is called a necrotizing granuloma, which is, typical of somebody who has rheumatoid arthritis. And they also found another nodule in my heart muscle. So that's when they told me that the disease was starting to affect my internal organs. If you have this, if you're diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, make sure you have really good medical insurance, because this is a disease that you're going to have to see a lot of specialists, and you're going to have a lot of tests that are expensive. And if your insurance doesn't cover all of that, you're going to be, going bankrupt. So, if you're working, just try to stay working and hang on to that medical insurance, because if you have to pay for it on your own and you get, a plan that's not as good as if you were working, you're probably going to be sorry. I've done a lot of reading about, what causes this disease? Why are more and more people getting diagnosed with this every year? I did read that, a lot of times what spurs us on is like a not bacterial infection, a virus, a bad virus like what I had, cytomegalovirus. So maybe that's the reason why. Maybe it's hereditary. Maybe, because both my sisters have it, maybe it's something genetic. I don't know. And the thing that worries me is that people are getting diagnosed with this more and more. So I worry that it has something to do with the environment. Maybe I was exposed, or we were exposed as a family to something in the environment that caused this. We lived in a place where there were a lot of refineries. So I'm wondering if that was the cause of it. I don't know. But it is very troubling, and the fact that doctors that aren't trained, doctors who aren't rheumatologists are trying to treat this disease with antidepressants, all the time, when a rheumatologist has never prescribed an antidepressant for me. So I, really strongly recommend, if you're prescribed one of these antidepressants, that you see a specialist, see a rheumatologist, and have it looked into more. You don't have to follow all the recommendations just because who the practitioner you're seeing is in the medical profession, if they're your general practitioner or whatever. If you have some kind of chronic disease like this, I think you need to take more responsibility for your health by making sure you have the right insurance that's going to cover you, so you don't go bankrupt and you're not punished financially. And make sure that your diet, it supports the disease that you have, and isn't making it worse. There are some foods that you could be eating that are making your inflammation worse, and you should read up on or see a nutritionist and find out what is the best diet for you. A lot of times I've been able to control my symptoms with my diet. For the longest time since I got here, my arthritis symptoms were better, and I attribute it to the drier air, which is why I moved here. One of the main reasons I moved here was because of the dry air, and the altitude is supposed to help with arthritis. But because the weather changed and it was becoming more humid during, getting closer to monsoon season, I started having nausea, and I wasn't able to eat the right foods anymore. Right now I'm having a really hard time. Nothing seems appetizing to me, and I want to snack on carbohydrates all the time, bread and pasta and that sort of thing, and that's not good for inflammation at all. Before I was eating a lot of veggies, but it just, you have to have this disease to understand. When you have a flare-up, everything in your body is kind of on edge and inflamed in your intestines. So, like you may be able to eat a bunch of raw veggies and salads one day, and the next day it's going to cause you a lot of intestinal distress. I can't, I tried to eat a salad yesterday, and today I'm suffering for it. So it's just a fine, you have to keep everything in balance, and just, do everything in moderation, and always think about what you're eating, and think about how much sleep you're getting, and stay away from those antidepressants. I'm telling you, they've done nothing but harm for my body and, my mental and physical state. And once you get into those antidepressants, it seems like the whole medical profession seems to have this kind of attitude that you can be, if you're helped with a medication that, affects your mental state, then maybe part of what you're feeling is in your mind. Maybe that's not true, but I don't think that antidepressants are the cure for this disease, and I don't think, I'm not going to tell you not to take them, but I'm telling you to really think twice about taking them, how they're going to affect your health, and how it can make things worse and not better. So the way I'm dealing with it now, I'm just trying to get through this monsoon season. I just can't wait for it to be over, and so I can get back to normal, and because I was able to do some work before. I was able to get things done around the house, not just doing, taking care of my animals, but able to get some progress done around the house. So I guess I just have to wait till the end of August or mid-September, as I heard last night from someone at the dog park. So anyway, I hope this hasn't been too long and drawn out for you, and I hope it's been helpful. So we'll see you next video.